Welcome Sagittarius to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 22nd of July for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. As last week came to a close, there were two dramatic events. The second consecutive full moon in the part of your situation to do with your values, everyday finance and your self-worth. And also Mars moving on Sunday into the part of your situation to do with your boundaries, but also your relationships. Mars is going to be in your 7th house for the next 6 weeks. If you would like to meet someone, being more daring, stepping outside your comfort zone, can really see you connect to some very exciting individuals, particularly over the next month, but especially this week through to Friday. The reason Sagittarius is the Sun moves on Monday into your sister fire sign of Leo. The Sun rules the sign of Leo, but joins also critically with Venus and Mercury. This is the part of your situation that really evokes that part of you that enjoys being spontaneous, loves variety, can be very open-minded, travel, being more adventurous and independent. But why is that part of your nature being rather muted of late? Well, it has partly been because Saturn for the last 15 months has been in a very powerful part of your situation in terms of emotion. And Saturn can be to do with limitations, but it also can be to do with lessons. And I think you've been learning much more about your inner world. Neptune's been there since 2012, but at times I thought it has been confusing for you exactly what you've needed. And then, of course, last week we had the clash between Mars and Uranus in your 6th house. Very much to do with obligations, responsibilities, things that you kind of have to do. But with Mars in the mix, any resentment you've been feeling, particularly if it seems that other people have been taking you for granted, may have seen you feeling very on edge, very brittle, or perhaps very charged up, perhaps even very irritable. Mars moving at the end of last week into house 7, whether you're discussing the finances or values that came from that full moon or a relationship matter, it's just giving you the encouragement to be clear about what you will or won't accept. But it also gives you a lot of motivation if you'd like to bring someone new into your world. But the energy of the Sun moving into Leo, connecting with Pluto, but also with the Sun, is quite complex. Because you're someone who's very invested in knowledge, the arrival of the Sun joining with Mercury and Venus in house 9 really gives that part of your nature a lot of an extra boost. But the Sun goes opposite Pluto on Tuesday exactly. So you could find the fallout from last week's connection to Mars and Uranus and the full moon means that you feel, with Mars's help, that you've got to assert your truth, which could come from the Sun in house 9. But because it's opposite Pluto, you just need to be mindful of how it may be received. It doesn't mean to say you shouldn't say what you feel, but it does suggest maybe choosing your words with as much care as possible. Otherwise someone could see that you're being so demanding of things on your terms, even if you're absolutely right in terms of the content of what you're saying, the tone will be important. So try to keep people with you, because Uranus does continue to cause irritations this week. It's clashing with Mercury, and Mercury in the 9th house, like the Sun and Venus, is wanting the truth of a situation to come out, but it may be that something does require a little bit of a compromise. And that opposition between the Sun and Pluto is not a compromising aspect at all. So as much as Mars moving into the 7th house, the Sun into the 9th house, really evokes within you some very natural, traditional astrological energies linked to the archetype of your sign. Freedom-loving, frank, won't take a step backwards when it's on a point of principle or discussing a topic that's knowledge-based. If it's a discussion around a more sensitive, emotional or family matter, try to summons up as much diplomacy as you can. Now Mercury is going to be moving on Thursday into your 10th house. And if some of the sensations that you're experiencing at the moment are to do with your professional situation. You feel it's dull, predictable, too much is being expected of you. There's not enough acknowledgement. Mercury moving into your 10th house can prime up a desire within you to find a new opportunity which does reward your talent, but most of all your intellect. But Chiron, the so-called wounded healer, goes into a retrograde on Friday in your 5th house. This is very much where we manifest our individuality, our creativity and flair. If you're really intact in that way, Mercury is a great opportunity to raise your profile. If you're less assured about what you've got to offer, work on that through to the end of the year. The quarter moon in Taurus on Sunday, however, is once more emphasizing the same energy that Uranus's clash with Mercury had, the 9th, 6th. And essentially, the 9th house is about that freedom, but the 6th house reminds us of our obligations. And however much you might want to drop everything this week, head off to a festival, book a foreign holiday last minute, walk out into your bright new future because it's what you're really wanting to do in that moment. I think essentially you are being asked to try to find a nice balance between being in touch with what makes you special as a truth seeker, but at the same time understanding that life is for us all a series of compromises, and with freedom comes those responsibilities. It's been great being with you, but if you would like to have a one-to-one with me, a personal consultation, please check out my testimonials below. I don't edit these, I share them as is. Discover what other people have found working with me. If you would like to become a patron from $3 a month, I upload a lot of extra information. If you are already a Patreon, thank you so much for all your support. And if you would like to ascend beyond this zodiac forecast and embrace the power of more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place, or date and place if you don't know your time, I can produce for you your life roadmap report. This will give you searing insights to the patterns that have played out in your life so far, but a much more intimate understanding of how to work with those energies future forwards. In my special package of 30% off, you can also get your 12 months transits. That's the moving planets in the sky interacting with your totally unique blueprint. Also, if you know your tropical astrology, but you'd like to discover your draconic astrology based on your soul, your karmic charts, please see below for that too. The same package, it can be very, very different to your natal chart, but very much an eye-opener. Have a great week. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye.